Hey everyone, so today I am showing you how I assembled this leotard. I purchased the pattern online for $4 and the fabric cost me $2 and I was able to make 2 leotards with that piece of fabric. It's a pretty easy sew. It's my first leotard using spandex kind of material, so it can be a little tricky and I've learned a lot, so that's what I'm hoping to document and share. So first of all, the bodice pieces, you need to start off by sewing the shoulders. Now the shoulders I sewed with my serger, 4 threads. I do have a sewing machine which has a stretch stitch, but I found out really quickly that that is not my preferred method of sewing this type of material, so the serger with the 4 threads work best for this project. Once you've done the shoulders, you can add the sleeves. And the sleeves, I learned really quickly that you're supposed to mark the halfway point and then the quarter point on both sides of the sleeve and mark it. This is a fabric marker that I have. And also cross out the side that you are not actually going to sew onto your bodice. You also will need to mark the bodice. For halfway mark is the shoulder seam and the quarter points on both sides, and know which side of the sleeve you're going to attach. And this is important because, as I learned the first time I did this, if you sew the sleeve backwards, you will end up with a cap sleeve instead of a flutter sleeve. So really important to know which side. So here you can see where I sewed the shoulders together. That is my center point, and to each side there is a quarter point where I will attach these clips for when I am sewing on my serger. And like I said, for this part I am using my serger 4 threads. So this is what the cap sleeve should look like. And now time to sew it. You will need to practice ahead of time with scrap pieces of fabric on getting the right serger settings for this type of material. Like I said, it's spandex and it's a little harder and it will need some adjustment. But there's the first flutter sleeve, and you do the same to both sides. Now you will need to sew the sides of your bodice, and this I did not document because it took me a lot longer than I expected. It is so important that you line up the sleeves just perfectly and then serge the ends, otherwise you will not have a neat sleeve. And that is really important. So I used my serger, I did it straight, but you need to really make sure that you're aligning the flutter sleeves perfectly. Now the bottoms. The bottoms of the leotard, this is an easy part. You have the front and the back, and if you're going to add lining, you should probably place it now, but just sew the sides on your serger using a 4 thread. And if you were going to put the lining, this is the time to add it. This was just a project for me to try to see if I could even make a leotard. So that's it. The bottoms are pretty easy. Front and back. Now sewing the skirt. The skirt is kind of a circle skirt. You will have a front and a back piece. The back piece is longer in length than the front. You will put the fabrics right sides facing together and sew the sides, making sure that they are completely aligned. You don't want to be off on your sides for your skirt. And especially since you're not hemming the skirt for this type of project, it's really important that your sides are perfectly aligned. And it's like a circle skirt, it's perfect. So now sewing the elastic to the neck. This was really hard for me to document because I had a lot of problems. First of all, I bought the wrong type of elastic. You do not want to buy braided elastic. You need to buy woven elastic, swim elastic, cotton elastic, or knit elastic, but don't use braided. It was really stiff and really hard, and it can break your needles on your machine. And like the sleeves, you're going to want to mark quarter points on the elastic, but it's really important that you have the right elastic. So this is an example. I didn't show myself sewing this because I had a really hard time with it. I serged the elastic onto the end, and then I did a top stitch, stretch stitch. The same with the neckline and the same with the bottoms to keep it in place. But it takes practice, and like I said, the elastic is so important that you have the right one. So now you're assembling it all together, and you're going to put your bottoms. Make sure you know that you align the back to the back and the front to the front. So remember, the front of the skirt is shorter, and you're going to align it to the side seams. Now here is where I made one mistake. I sewed the top of my skirt to my bottoms first, and that is a huge no-no. And the reason for this is because when you add the bodice piece, you're going to have really thick waistline, and there's a chance that you won't serge them perfectly and your threads will show when you're wearing it. So don't serge the bottom and the skirt together, you're going to serge it all together. So this is me reserging the bottoms, the skirt, and the top bodice piece, and this is how it should be done. And it's a little bit easier because there's no elastic involved in this part of the sewing. And this is it. This is the final leotard. Turn it inside out. And if you've done it right, it should look perfect. And like I said, even though I know the elastic wasn't the right one and I had problems with the neckline, once it's on, it looks amazing. And definitely a project worth mentioning. Also, I forgot to mention, for adding a skirt, you will have to add 1/4 inch to the top and the bottom pieces, because otherwise they will come in a little shorter than you want for the body fit. Thank you, and please like and subscribe.